What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Next Pats podcast. I'm Phil Perry. Really fun episode for you this week because we're getting ready for this Patriots-Bills game. What's next for the Patriots offense? Are they going to be able to run with some of these offenses that they face down the stretch here? Going to have to steal a game from a really good team at some point in time here if you want to make the postseason and have a chance at executing what owner Robert Kraft wanted his team to execute going all the way back to March when he said it bothered him that they haven't won a playoff game in 3 years. We're also bringing in our great friend, Mark Schofield, NFL writer, SB Nation, does a phenomenal job year after year, breaking down quarterback prospects from the college game. Then as the NFL season kicks off, diagnosing each and every NFL offense across the league. The guy studies his face-off, and so he understands relative to the rest of the NFL, where does this Patriots offense stack up in terms of creativity, in terms of execution, and what maybe gave him some optimism moving forward for this offense based on what he saw on Thanksgiving night. But let's start with some criticism, some strong words from a Hall of Fame quarterback, another friend of the Next Pats podcast, Kurt Warner, who on his QB Confidential YouTube page, where he does these study ball videos, which are phenomenal. If you haven't seen them yet, please make sure you go check them out. If you're a fan of the X's and O's, the way that I am, and if you're listening to this podcast, you probably are as well. Make sure you take the time to go and watch his latest study ball video. It's about Mac Jones. It's about this Patriots offense, and it's from that Minnesota Vikings game. He does about an hour-long video on everything that he noticed from this Patriots offense. And the few different themes continue to pop up here. Creativity, or a lack thereof, in terms of what Kurt Warner is seeing. He's seeing the same concepts again and again and again from this Patriots offense. And he says that's okay. That's okay as long as you can execute them. But because the Patriots are lacking in terms of their details when it comes to running these concepts again and again and again, that is where the inconsistency in their execution is stemming from. So this is an hour-long video from Kurt, where he talks about spacing, where he talks about route running, releases off the line of scrimmage, quarterback reads, quarterback mechanics, some confusing play designs. Are there hot routes? Are there not? If Mac Jones is blitzed. All of these things entered into Warner's crosshairs during this video, but he wrapped up the film session by coming back to the lack of variety in the Patriots offense, in his opinion, and the apparent lack of attention to detail that the Patriots have shown when running some of their favorite concepts. I wanted to play you Warner's summarization of what he saw from the Patriots, not just in this Vikings game, but in what he's seen from the Patriots all season long. This is about a 2-minute bite of sound, but I think you're going to find it really interesting. Here's Kurt Warner from his study ball video on Mac Jones and the Patriots.
That's what I'm seeing with the Patriots offense, okay? Not necessarily bad concepts across the board. Some good, solid concepts. Like to see more. Saw it in there. A lot of the same concepts, concept ideas over and over and over again, but they're good concept ideas, so I'm not going to argue as much with that. But it's about details. Details, details, details. You want to be simple with your offense, you better be really, really good at what you do. And the details. Details as a quarterback. Technique, throwing the football, getting the ball out on time, knowing where your eyes should be and what you're seeing, and then the details of creating the right kind of spacing, getting to positions quickly to allow your quarterback to make reads and get the ball out on time, and giving him opportunities to do that. You see right there, this is my problem with where the Patriots are overall. Yes, I'd like to see more concepts and more creativity overall, but if this is just what you're going to do and you're going to be a simplistic offense that runs the same concepts over and over again, get good at them. Get the details down. Again, I'm not the only one that teaches this. There may be different ways of teaching all this stuff, but this stuff is important to me when I played. I ran all of these concepts, and it was all really, really important to me because as a quarterback, I want to get my eyes on the right spot. I want you to create spacing. I want you to attack them a certain way so I can get my read and I can get the ball out of my hands and get it to my playmakers. And that to me is where Mac Jones has struggled this year. Things haven't happened quick enough for him. It's forced him to overthink things, to get through things too quickly and make a lot of bad decisions with the football that he didn't do nearly as much last year. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that's coming together, and it's leading to, in that game, I mean, they completed a lot of passes. They had a lot of yards, but you see all the stuff that could have been right? All the opportunities out there that were missed because the details weren't very good on those concepts. So that to me is what I've been seeing with the Patriots all year long. And, 2 weeks ago, I think Mac went 23 for 27 and they scored 3 points, right? Why? Lack of efficiency. And efficiency, yes, we get completions and we do that, but we need to score points. We need these plays to turn into big plays. We need them to turn into first downs and critical opportunities. Details, reading it right as a quarterback, getting the ball to the right guy, making good decisions. That to me is where this team has been way up and down, and I would say more down than up this year, and why they've struggled to score points and to do it week in and week out.
More down than up. There's no question the Patriots still rank near the bottom of the league in some major offensive statistical categories. 31st in red zone offense, 25th on third down, converting just over 37% of their third down opportunities. It's not good. Whether you want to look at the advanced analytics, some of the more traditional stats, the Patriots offense is still a bottom third offense in the NFL. And unfortunately for them, if they want to make the postseason, and even if you pencil in wins for the Patriots over the Cardinals, over the Raiders, which, in my opinion, are no sure thing. Really, there's no game for the Patriots in 2022 that should be considered a sure thing. But they have to face the Bills twice. That's the second highest scoring offense in football. They see the Bengals, who are the fifth highest scoring offense in the NFL right now. And they see the Dolphins, who are the sixth highest scoring offense in the NFL right now. Those are 4 of their remaining 6 games. And again, you could beat Arizona, you could beat Vegas. You're going to have to beat one of those teams to be able to get to 9 wins and even sniffing the postseason. That may not even be enough. You may have to get to 10, but you're going to have to beat one of those great offenses, top 6 offenses, to be able to even sniff the playoffs this year. Can they do it? Is the offense at least going in the right direction, even if there's still a clear and apparent lack of detail offensively under Matt Patricia, Joe Judge, and Bill Belichick? Let's talk to our guy, Mark Schofield from SB Nation. There he is. Very excited to have our good friend Mark Schofield of SB Nation. He's an NFL writer there. He's watching so much damn football so that the rest of us can actually relax while these games are going on and just watch them casually and just enjoy them. Meanwhile, this man is studying it all so he can break it all down for us. Mark, thanks for being with us, man.
Phil, it's great to see you, buddy. Always good to be on with you. Thank you so much for having me. I do watch way too much football. Watch way too much sports, really. I mean, I was just telling you at SB Nation, they let me write about the World Cup. They let me write about F1. So it's great because I get to tell the family, hey, I got to go watch this random qualifying round over in Japan at 5 a.m. So I need some alone time. But it's fun. It's great. But it's always fun to be with you, my friend.
I really want to see your next piece on professional tag. That's something that I caught a few minutes of on TV recently.
Ooh.
I'll tell you what, very entertaining. You should be looking into this. Maybe this can be the next F1. That thing has really blown up.
F1 has what they'll need is like a Netflix version of Drive to Survive for professional tag, because the Drive to Survive series has really gotten people excited about F1. So we need a Netflix like professional tag. Like, I don't know, we could workshop a name like Dodge to Live or something like that. I don't know. We could workshop that, Phil.
I got to think, if you are dedicating enough time to the game of tag to be a professional at the game of tag, you're dealing with some pretty interesting characters there. So I could see a documentary.
Got to be some colorful people. Got to be some colorful people with that.
No question. No question. You're a colorful man yourself, but you do watch so much damn football that it's great to have you on during a week like this, where I think there are some conflicting opinions as to where the Patriots offense stands right now. And we've had you on the podcast so many times before telling us about college prospects at the quarterback position, talking about Mac Jones and his prospects in the NFL since he joined the Patriots. But I want to look at this offense, Mark, because you watch so many offenses across the league. And the first question I want to ask you is just how simple, again, relative to the rest of the NFL, how simple is this Patriots offense right now?
I mean, relative to the rest of the NFL, I don't think it's as simple as people are sort of making it out to be. You know, I think when you watch this team conceptually, you watch some of the route concepts, they're You see a lot of similar concepts to what we see around the rest of the NFL, whether it's half-field concepts where you've got, a smash concept to one side, a levels concept to the other side, whether it's the sort of under center seam, verticals, 9-8-9 stuff that they had some success with against Minnesota. You're seeing concepts like that around the league, whether it's under center play action post over. Another concept you see, I watch every offense each week. You see that once or twice from every offense. And so there's a lot of carryover conceptually from one team to the next. I think what the Patriots might sort of be missing are those little elements and tweaks and things that teams can do to create some more favorable matchups and mismatch type of opportunities for some of their players. Like you watch, for example, Kansas City, and then Isaiah Pacheco, the young running back that they have, they're motioning him into a stack and creating some rubs and some option routes for him. When you see what obviously the San Francisco 49ers are now doing with Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey, the interchangeability of those two players, using one out of the slot, using one as a running back, and then flipping that, giving defenses different looks. Like there are things that other teams can do, partly because of the personnel that they have, that New England can't quite do right now. But then I think there's sort of a deeper question, and it's one of the issues that I have with this offense right now, mostly this passing game right now, is sort of what is their offensive identity in the passing game. 3rd and 7, what are they going to hang their hat on? 3rd and 3, what are you going to hang your hat on if you're going to put the ball in the air? Is it the screen game? Is it the half field concept passing game? Is it the vertical passing game? We saw, again, some vertical success in the passing game on Thursday night. Is it the under center play action passing game? Like there's an offensive pass game identity that I think they're still trying to figure out. And we're past Thanksgiving now. This is one of those things that I think you'd like to have sorted out by this point. They're still struggling to figure that part of their offense out.
Yeah, I think the question of identity is a good one, Mark, because, talking about this offense overall, but one of their most glaring issues right now are their issues in the red zone. They're 31st in the NFL in terms of touchdown percentage down inside the 20, ahead of only the Denver Broncos, who might be one of the worst offenses we've seen in, I don't know, decades? Is that too strong to say? So what's fascinating about that word identity is that that's a word that's been relayed to me by players when I ask them what's going on inside the red zone. And it's really hard for them to put their finger on it. Oh, well, it's the end of a long drive. Maybe guys are getting tired. Maybe we lose our focus. Maybe we let up at times in the end zone, sort of subconsciously. They still don't know. And again, we're encroaching on December here.
Yeah.
Is there a red zone glaring issue, in your opinion, Mark, that maybe they can't put their finger on, but from what you've seen seems to be an issue in your opinion?
Yeah, and it's an all of the above situation. I mean, you look at that game Thursday night. I actually wrote about this for SB Nation Friday morning. They had 9, 10 if you count the play after the failed reverse. So we'll say 10 plays down in the red zone. And you had protection breakdowns up front. Like there was a play where Cole Strange got beat because they kicked Danielle Hunter inside. Jones had to move off the spot. He then slides down. This was right before the end of the first half, and it's technically a sack. It's no gain. You had the reverse, which was an interesting play call. You just had the turnover. You ran Harris inside for a gain of 1. That would have been a nice spot to go play action, under center play action, I think, but they go with this reverse and it gets stopped for a gain of 7. That play was literally dead to rights because there was interior pressure immediately after Bourne took the handoff. You had a miscommunication outside. There was a play in the second half in the red zone where Stevenson's flexed outside. He runs a curl. Aguilar runs it out. You got 2 guys right in the same area of the field, and Jones throws it over both of their heads. That's an issue you saw later in the game in a non-red zone play where you had guys in the same area of the field. So you have some miscommunication issues. You put that sort of all together, it's an all of the above scenario. And like you said, they're struggling in the red zone. The touchdown percentage, like you said, 31st in the league. They're just ahead of Denver. They're behind Indianapolis, and they're behind Houston. Like, that's not good company here in 2022 in terms of red zone percentage. You've got to finish drives with points. You've got to finish with 6 and 7. And I know that scoring is down around the league. I know that there are issues with teams having struggles getting the ball into the end zone. But still, as you look to this stretch of games starting Thursday night against Buffalo, you have to finish drives with points. It's an all of the above thing right now. There's a lack of details and execution. There's a lack of protection up front. And there are some moments where perhaps better decisions could be made with the football. And let's put this out there. The Henry play, even if that's a touchdown, they're still 31st in red zone touchdown percentage. So it wouldn't have been fixed by just that one call too.
And you mentioned details. That's something we played some sound from Kurt Warner off the top of the podcast here, where he is continuously over an hour-long video that he recently posted to YouTube as part of his QB Confidential project, continuously referencing the word details. And I would imagine down in the red zone where everything's a little bit condensed, you have to be on your details in terms of releases off the line of scrimmage, in terms of your spacing with your passing concepts, details in terms of even the quarterback mechanics. Where are your eyes? Are you reading the correct defender based on the concept that you're putting out there for them to try to react to? So all of those things still being off makes me look at the calendar, makes me look at the schedule and the difficult teams that they have coming up here. Even if it's not blow the world away types of defenses, you are facing some elite quarterbacks with some really good offenses that you're going to have to keep pace with. I wonder if they're going to be able to do that moving forward. But let me put it to you, Mark. Vikings game, probably their most efficient offensive game. I guess it probably would be right there with the Ravens game back in week 3 in terms of occasional moments of explosiveness, which is always good to see in 2022. But did that give you optimism moving forward that they can keep pace with a team like the Bills, for instance, who come to Foxborough this week?
Absolutely. I mean, I think if you look at the Baltimore game, the first two and maybe 2.5 quarters of that game, it was some of the best you've seen from Mac Jones. Explosive in the downfield passing game. Some of the throws he made to Devontae Parker in that game, some hole shots, some one-on-one situations where he threw the vertical ball. Those moments stood out. You look at this game Thursday night, the first touchdown to Aguilar and a 9-8-9 concept, you got the post route in the middle of the field. You see that split safety look and you hit it immediately right after you hitch up in the pocket. That's the kind of stuff we've been waiting to see from Mac Jones, that explosiveness in the downfield passing game. You saw the touchdown to Henry, under center, play action, seam concept, get those linebackers and second level defenders to bite down. That's the perhaps offensive identity we've been looking for, some vertical stuff, some under center play action stuff. So it gives me this belief, Phil, that they're going to be able to score enough to hang with these teams. I think the question becomes, can they score enough to beat these teams, right? Because with Minnesota, for example, with Baltimore, they scored enough to sort of stay in those games until the end. The question becomes, with this stretch of games they have, with this playoff push they're trying to put together, started on Thursday night, can you score enough to outscore and beat those teams? Or is it going to have to be a situation where the offense just keeps them close and you're hoping the defense creates a turnover, gets a 4th down stop, or does something on their end to put you in a position to win? So do I think they can score enough to keep these games close? Yeah. The question I have is, with what they've learned over the first 12 weeks of this season, with what's worked for them and with this offensive identity in the passing game, they're trying to figure out, if they have figured that out, can they put it all together to outscore teams in some of these games down the stretch, or is it going to have to be complementary football for them to put these wins together?
Mark, what's up with Josh Allen? What's wrong with this guy? 4 red zone picks in his past 5 games. Is there something specifically? Again, let's focus on the red zone here. Is there something, whether it's lack of faith in the offensive line, lack of faith in some of his weapons, maybe he's forcing some things when he shouldn't be? What's going on that he is not taking care of, the football the way he should be when things get condensed for Buffalo? Because if they can force him into a turnover down there, that could be the kind of game-changing play they need to not only stay in this game, but win it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting. We just talked about sort of the company you don't want to be in this year, right? With the Patriots and their red zone woes. He's got 11 interceptions, tied with Davis Mills and just ahead of Matt Ryan. That's not company you want to be in as a quarterback this year. I think he's pressing at times. I think there are moments when he feels like he needs to do too much. And you're seeing some of the, say, early career Josh Allen, Wyoming Josh Allen come out where he's trying to do a little bit too much. He's forcing some throws into traffic. He's trying to create a little bit too much. Been on a couple of Buffalo shows this week, and there is some unease about what they're seeing from Allen. I think he's also still working through an elbow injury. The elbow injury he suffered at the end of that game against the Jets. You saw him on Thanksgiving. He had an early hitch route in that game, just a 5-yard throw where you see a dip in a loop where he's really trying to get a little extra on it. It makes you think that elbow is bothering him a little bit. They've also had a strange couple of weeks with his injury. He doesn't practice before that game against the Vikings. He gives it a go. They lose that game in somewhat strange fashion with a fumbled quarterback sneak to try to run out the clock. Then they have the game against Cleveland in Detroit where they had to get snowed out. They can't really practice that week. They had to have some virtual practices, and then you have a Thanksgiving Day game right after that. And so, they've been working through some things, but I think he's been working through some things. And it gives the Patriots defense an opportunity to create some turnovers, to generate some, short fields perhaps for this Patriots offense. And that's going to be the recipe for a win Thursday night is, can you create a short field? Can you give Mac Jones and company, a plus situation to start a drive with? They do that once or twice, it might give them enough to win this game.
We've got to let you go in a minute here, but I do want to throw some numbers at you because I've been crunching them till my face is about to fall off here. And I'm going to ask you, do you feel like you should blitz Josh Allen? Because it's a risk reward sort of proposition here, as it is with most quarterbacks. But when somebody can run the way that Allen can and still beat you with his arm in as many ways as he can, I get maybe some trepidation if you're Bill Belichick, Gerard Mayo, Steve Belichick. But listen to some of these numbers, Mark. Against 5 or more rushers this year, according to Sports Info Solutions, Josh Allen is 30th in completion percentage, 30th in yards per attempt, 25th in interception rate, 28th in quarterback rating, 24th in EPA. 4 or fewer rushers, he's 3rd in yards per attempt, he's 6th in quarterback rating, he's 2nd in EPA. Now, would you be willing to take that risk? And I imagine, you tell me, but I imagine if you're sending 5 or more and he's able to break the pocket, you could end up with a game-changing play on your hands that you don't like. But it feels like trying to heat him up is maybe the way to go. He was blitzed 18 times, according to Pro Football Focus, against the Lions this past week, completed less than 50% of his passes, had 2.2 yards per attempt and a rating of 53.8. Should the Patriots be blitzing this guy?
I think you should, but I think you got to, pick your spots with it. I don't think it's a situation where you want to just rely too much on it. You got to be smart with it because, and it's an interesting clash of styles because one of the things the Patriots defense has been so good at this year is pressure with 4. I mean, you look at their pressure percentage with 4, it's top 5 in the league. Their sacks with 4, it's top 5 in the league. They've got a really nice 4-man pressure package with what they've been doing conceptually on defense. And you look at, say, last year when they played Miami, Buffalo did, right? Miami last year, we know the zero pressure looks that they gave them. They gave Allen fits. But in the second meeting between those two teams, even though he had a couple of sacks against zero blitz, a couple of, throwaways and things like that, they had a 3rd and 7 in the red zone. They went zero blitz. Allen had just enough time to get off a throw to Diggs, and it was sort of the game-altering touchdown. And so you've got to be smart with it. You've got to be sure that you can either get home or influence him enough that he has to throw it away. Because like you said, Phil, the last thing you want is a 3rd and 7 situation. You go zero blitz and he scrambles for 15 and you can't get off the field. He's got that ability to make some game-changing plays, both with his arm and his legs against pressure. So you have to be smart with it. And you have to sort of try to at least have an idea of how you're going to take away where he wants to go initially, right? Whether it's Diggs, whether it's Knox, whether it's whomever he's probably going to look to first. And this is where advanced scouted is so critical in a game like this. If you're going to do that, you want to have an answer for either what he might do quickly, or you want to sort of force him to take that extra beat with the football, right? You see a lot of teams, and Minnesota did this extremely well against New England on Thursday night. You show that mug look up front. You expect that's where the pressure is going to come from. You drop those guys and come from the edge, some sim pressure looks and things like that to force the quarterback to take that extra step to sort of read things out after the snap, which might give you enough time to A, get home, and B, make sure you've got options that are downfield for the quarterback covered in the passing game. And so I think you do want to pressure him given those numbers. You do want to blitz him at times given those numbers, but you've got to be smart with when you do it, and you've got to be smart with how you do it.
He's Mark Schofield. He is the best in the business when it comes to breaking down the NFL. He's an NFL writer for SB Nation. And maybe, just maybe, he's writing about World Chase Tag, the
We're going to work on that
sometime soon. I said earlier they were pro tag players. Mark, I'm not sure we call them pro. I don't know if these guys are being paid. That's my
I think they've earned it, Phil. I think they've earned it, And if they're not being paid, you and I, we're going to make sure they get paid with how we cover it in the weeks and months ahead.
Exactly. Once you blow this thing up, it becomes the next F1. Now, all of a sudden, Mark Schofield has become the godfather of professional tag. Put
it on my business card. Put it on my business card.
Oh, gosh. All right. Go follow this guy at Mark Schofield, Schofield on Twitter. All of his stuff will be there. Mark, thanks again for being with us on Next Pads.
Thank you as always, my friend. Good to see you.
Great stuff there from Mark Schofield. Be fascinating to see if the Patriots can clean up some of the things that have continued to plague them offensively, third down, red zone, against what has been, for most of the season, a very good Bills defense. And we have some details on just how good they've been season long in our most recent mailbag on NBCSportsBoston.com. But in their last 3 games, they're allowing 27 points per game. Can the Patriots approach that? And is their defense good enough to be able to hold Josh Allen, a little bit of a diminished Josh Allen, a little bit of a hero ball playing Josh Allen, and a banged up offensive line down below that 27-point figure? If they can, they should have a shot here. And again, I do think that offensive line, for the second week in a row, it should be a factor. It was not a factor in the way, in my opinion, it should have been against the Vikings. They were without Christian Darrisaw, one of the best left tackles in the league this year. Certainly one of the best young offensive linemen in football across positions. He was out. They had a backup in there, and the Patriots still couldn't take advantage of it because I thought the Vikings did a great job of scheming up some things to take away Matt Judon with double teams, with chips on the end of the line of scrimmage, with tight ends, running backs. He was a focal point of their offensive game plan. They also just got the ball out of Kirk Cousins' hands very, very quickly. And yes, occasionally he did drop back, take his time, and have time to find guys like Justin Jefferson down the field. But if you look at Kirk Cousins' passing chart on Thanksgiving, a lot of passes thrown not only within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage, but behind the line of scrimmage, because they knew they didn't have the bodies up front to be able to protect their quarterback. Do the Bills feel the same way with Deion Dawkins, their left tackle, probably not playing in this game? He's dealt with an ankle injury. He hasn't practiced this week. You could see David Quessenberry at left tackle for the Bills. That should be advantage Patriots. Can they take advantage of that? Can they speed up Josh Allen? I talked about some of the blitz numbers with Mark. Would you blitz him? Would you not? There's a gamble there. It's a dice roll, but maybe you don't have to. If their offensive line is banged up, and if you can pressure with 4, maybe some of those blitz numbers that I mentioned, where Allen is at the bottom of the league in terms of things like quarterback rating and completion percentage when blitzed, maybe you can achieve those numbers by still just rushing 4. And then you have the benefit of that added body, whether it's in coverage or spying Josh Allen. I do think spies will be a part of the plan. I know spies will be part of the plan against Josh Allen in this Buffalo Bills offense. After talking to some Patriots defenders this week down at Gillette Stadium, it'll depend on what package is in there. Are they going with their big nickel, their SEALs defense out there with Kyle Duggar and Adrian Phillips and Devin McCourty or Jabril Peppers mixed in there? Because I think you could see some safeties tracking Josh Allen if that's the package that's on the field. I think if it's their nickel package, their Navy package, quote unquote, then it could be some different bodies. And then if they go to dime with 6 DBs on the field and maybe Mac Wilson in the middle of the field, one of your best athletes defensively, somebody we talked a lot about on Next Pats here this offseason because we thought he might give them a little bit different look. He's proved to just really be a role player through 12 weeks of the season. But can he play a role that ends up making a massive impact on this game, even if he's not one of their top snap getters against the Buffalo Bills? When he is on the field, can he make an impact by chasing Josh Allen sideline to sideline? If you go to that mailbag that I just mentioned, you'll find a link in there from Mac Wilson from this summer, back in July, soon after joining the Patriots, of him putting a massive hit on Josh Allen in a game between the Bills and the Browns earlier in Mac Wilson's career. He chases Allen to the sideline. Allen does not get out of bounds, and Mac Wilson sends him airborne. You know, Mac Wilson is hoping to get that kind of hit on the Bills quarterback again this week. Mention the mailbag, hit it online, NBCSportsBoston.com. There were a few questions we weren't able to get to, and these felt like Next Pats specific questions to me. So let's answer a couple of them here. Mark Reads Comics is asking about the top 5 free agent options available to the Patriots this offseason. There are some massive, massive names when it comes to free agency in general, whether you're talking about Lamar Jackson. Tom Brady is set to be a free agent. I know Jeff Howe of The Athletic, our buddy there, played around with the idea of Tom Brady coming back to New England. I can't see it. I can't see it on Bill Belichick's end. It's really hard for me to envision. As much respect and love as Bill Belichick has for Tom Brady, and I think they're good now in terms of their relationship. I think there was an important conversation had after that Patriots loss to Tampa Bay last year between Brady and Belichick. But I just can't see him bringing Brady back and hoping that Brady saves the franchise. And even if it is a nice come full circle kind of moment, and even if Bill Belichick has had epiphanies in these last few years about how difficult it would be without Tom Brady, that to me still feels like it is beyond the realm of possibility. You never say never with the New England Patriots. I've said that many times on this podcast and others. So I would never entirely rule it out. But I'm close to entirely ruling it out because I just can't see Bill Belichick making that move. Could I see Tom Brady doing it? I could see on Brady's end his experience in Tampa Bay with Bruce Arians. And we know how that went. Obviously, they won a Super Bowl, but we also know how that went in terms of their personalities and how those two things fit together and how it's looking right now with Todd Bowles running the Bucs and Bowles talking about not using timeouts at the end of that Browns loss for Tampa Bay and saying, well, you could have a quarterback throw an interception there. You know how many interceptions Tom Brady has thrown this year? Tom Brady has thrown 2 interceptions this year on 470 pass attempts. Did Bowles really feel like there was a risk of Tom Brady putting it in the other team's hands against one of the worst defenses in football this year in Cleveland? So I could see Tom Brady looking at the coaching that he's gotten in Tampa Bay and saying to himself, boy, maybe I didn't realize how good I had it with Bill Belichick. I think he does. I think he realizes that. I think he even realized it at the time. It just came down to, in terms of the end of the team's relationship with Tom Brady, it came back to money and respect. And we've been over that situation ad nauseum. But does it make sense for him to stay on the East Coast, try to win something special back with Bill Belichick, maybe try to help Bill Belichick achieve a goal that a lot of us feel like he would value pretty highly in terms of surpassing Don Shula for overall wins as a head coach in the NFL? Again, you could make the case on Brady's end to me. On Belichick's end, I think it's a little bit harder. I do. But now we're getting away from Mark Reed's comics question here when he's talking about free agents that the Patriots should be interested in. Mark, where I'm going first and foremost is along the offensive line. I'm looking at Elton Jenkins from the Green Bay Packers. Versatile guy, somebody who's played a little bit of tackle. He's played some guard. He's even played some center. Talk about your perfect Patriot. Now, he's dealt with some injury as well, but that would be a name near the top of my list. Let's stick on the offensive line because they need help there. Isaiah Wynn, no longer under contract. Is Yodny Kajust an answer for the future at right tackle? Who knows what the future holds for Trent Brown in terms of his availability? He's been nothing but available this year, and credit to him for that. Under contract for next year. But where do the Patriots see the future of that position? He was also benched to start their first game back off a bye against the Jets just a couple weeks ago. Still a head scratcher to me. Mike McGlinchey from San Francisco is a tackle worth paying attention to. Orlando Brown from the Kansas City Chiefs, a massive, massive body. We know the Patriots don't shy away from the big boys at tackle. There's one more name here too that I find pretty interesting because this is somebody who has proven over the course of the last few years that he can be, and he's actually paid like it now in Cleveland, but he can be considered among the game's best tackles when things are right and when he's healthy. But that's Jack Conklin. Again, of the Cleveland Browns, began his career in Tennessee, was a top 10 pick once upon a time. He's just 29 years old, or he's not even 29 years old yet, but he will be before the start of next year. That's a name that I would keep an eye on as well, and probably wouldn't cost you as much as some of those other options might. Some potential Patriots at other positions. Jesse Bates, the safety. If Devin McCourty ends up retiring at the end of this year, I think he's one of the most underrated defenders in the NFL. Again, you may have to pay him, but the Patriots have all kinds of cap space available to them. I just think, unfortunately for them, outside of some of those tackle names that I just mentioned, not a lot of huge money free agents that feel like they would fit glaring needs for the Patriots right now. Look at the receiver group. Alan Lazard, Jacoby Myers. There's just not a lot there in free agency. So if you're hoping to get a number one, and I know Ryan J, 7,800 asked us on Twitter, is there a number one on the market? Is there one available? Not via free agency. Now, we could come up with all kinds of trade scenarios and try to figure out a way for the Patriots to acquire one that way, but that might have to be a draft option if the Patriots want to go that route. If they can't retain Jacoby Myers, if Nelson Aguilar is also moving on, you're talking about a receiver group that could next year be a top 3 of Devontae Parker, Tyquan Thornton, Kendrick Bourne. And depending on how you feel about Bourne and Thornton, you could say that's not a bad group. I actually like the talent of those top 3 right there, but you don't have anything approaching a number 1. And both Bourne and Thornton have certainly Bourne, but Thornton, since his 2 touchdown game against the Browns, both of those guys have gone in the wrong direction. So I don't know how good you could feel about that receiver group if Jacoby Myers isn't retained. But when you look at that receiver list available in free agency and you look at how much money the Patriots have, I would say Jacoby Myers should be a priority for you to keep around because he's so dependable, because he does all the little things that you want him to do, because he is an example for the rest of your team. And I think Bill Belichick values this. I don't know why any coach wouldn't. If you have an undrafted player who plays his way into a critical role for your football team and then he doesn't get rewarded, that to me might be a little discouraging to some of the other guys in that locker room that you're hoping to develop the way that Jacoby Myers developed. And so why not? Don't make him the highest paid receiver in the NFL, but I don't think anybody would be expecting that. But if you can retain him and use him as an example for every player with a chip on their shoulder that comes into your locker room to say, hey, look at what this guy made of his career. If you do all the right things, if you work as hard as he did, if you listen to us and you develop the way that we feel you can develop, that could be you someday. I think that's a really powerful thing to be able to show the other human beings. These guys are human beings in your locker room. And if you really believe in depth, and we could argue about just how important that is, maybe it's not as important as we once thought it was with these Patriots teams of old. But if you are a believer in depth, which Bill Belichick is, regardless of where you stand, why not try to maximize your depth by having someone like that as a shining example of what to do when you're at the back end of the roster or when you're on the bottom of the depth chart at your position group? Because that's where Jacoby Myers was. That's where Jacoby Myers was going into his second season. He still couldn't get on the field because guys like N'Keal Harry were getting their opportunities. But now look at him, and he might end up being the biggest free agent winner, quote unquote winner, at the receiver position in the NFL this year. All right, we began that podcast edition of the mailbag with a question from Mark Reed's Comics, but I think we also got to questions from Ryan J. We got to our question from Boom 80517 asking about Jack Conklin. We also got to Pat's account 1, his question on Jacoby Myers maybe getting re-signed. Will he get re-signed? I'm not sure he will. You know, we talked about him a little bit there. Now, can the Patriots actually keep him? I think they should. Will they? Will they be willing to pay him as much as another team might? They should. Again, in my opinion, they have the money. They have the need. Make it happen. Will they? I'm not so sure. Patriots, when it comes down to a bidding war, especially for a player at a position where the Patriots may say to themselves, well, we have some depth there. We have a second-round pick that we like that needs to play more. You know, there's some intriguing options in the draft at that position, as there are every single year. And you can go back to our Next Pats podcast with Dane Brugler from The Athletic to talk about some of the receiver options that may be available to the Patriots in the first round this year that could change them offensively and change the trajectory potentially of Mac Jones's career. Maybe the Patriots are looking at that too and saying, we'd love to have Jacoby Myers, but at X millions of dollars. And to me, Jacoby Myers should be expecting at least what Nelson Aguilar got a couple of off seasons ago, where he was paid on average $11 million over 2 years from the New England Patriots. You're talking double-digit millions, in my opinion, for Jacoby Myers. That's what I would be expecting. He's been, again, nothing but dependable, tough. He suffered a shoulder injury in that Vikings game. Not only does he come back in that game, takes another shot to the same side. Really painful. I talked to him about it this week, but he is expecting to come back and play again this week on another Thursday night. There's so much value in a player like that. The leadership that he shows, even if he's not the most vocal guy in the locker room, the leadership he shows in terms of how he approaches his job, so much added value there. Keep him. I'm just not sure the Patriots will, to answer your question, Pat's account one. All right, so that'll do it for this week's edition of the Next Pats podcast. Thanks so much for being with us, guys. Thanks so much to Mark Schofield of SB Nation, at Mark Schofield on Twitter. Thanks to all of you who contributed to the mailbag, whether it was the podcast edition or the online edition at NBCSportsBoston.com. We appreciate you. We love you. We're thankful for you. Enjoy the game Thursday night. We'll talk to you guys next week.